שבת אחים גם יחד, הנה מה טוב, הנה מה טוב. ינאי, נאי, 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 הנה מה טוב, הנה מה טוב. ינאי, נאי, 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 נאי. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Wow, are you sleeping? Let's try that again. Shabbat Shalom. This side of the room, Shabbat Shalom. Ooh, this side, Shabbat Shalom. This side, Shabbat Shalom. Better. This side, Shabbat Shalom. Wonderful, wonderful. It is so good to be here this morning on the Shabbat morning, and God has granted us this time and this space that we can do this together, and for that we are so, so thankful. A couple words as we get started with our service. One, if you have a reading, meaning you're part of the service and you have a reading, when I call your name, you're going to come right over to this choir mic and stand here, and you can look at Daniel and you can lead the reading that way. If you have an aliyah, of course, you're going to come up to the bima, okay, and we're going to cue you in from there. If you reach under your chairs, you're going to find this black siddur. So everybody do the reach, everybody under the chair. Okay? The black siddur is really meant for everyone to participate. So on your right, you're going to find the Hebrew. On the left, you're going to find the translation, and in the middle, the transliteration. Some of the prayers are going to be familiar to you, some may not be. Sometimes the tunes may be a little bit different. You can snap, you can clap. La, la, la is great. God understands la, la, la just fine. Here's the key, energy. Daniel is up here to lead us this morning in this service, and that's a really big deal. But to do it, he needs our help. So imagine that he's a mirror, and you all are a mirror as well. And the energy that he sends out to us, you send back to him. And it gets reflected back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And that's how we become a sacred community in these moments. If you have a cell phone, would you please turn it off? If you have an Apple Watch, please still it. That way we can hold the sanctity of our sanctuary. It's always good to know where the exits are in case we need to exit quickly. So right in the middle behind there, you've got an exit. To the side, you have an exit. And behind me, you've got an exit. Okay? Our gabbai today is Joanne Lipschutz. Jessica Tillum is our soloist. Everybody knows Daniel. I'm Rabbi Spike Anderson. Will you please turn to the people around you? Say, hello, my name is, good morning, Shabbat Shalom. Like really do the turn so that we can get to know each other. Let's take a full minute to do this. A full minute. Get to know each other. מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב, הנה מה טוב. יאנה נאי, נאנה נאנה נאי נאי. הנה מה טוב, הנה מה טוב. יאנה נאי, נאנה נאנה נאי נאי. Beautiful. So, Daniel, we've talked about this a little bit before, but there is a thought that one of the reasons that our people, the Jewish people, have been able to be as successful as we are in whatever lands we're in is because we empower our 13-year-olds to lead us no matter where we are. And so, which is a very big deal. Most peoples, most religions don't do that. So, for instance, if I had tapped you and said, you are in charge of the kindergartners one day a week, that would actually be a very big deal. That would mean that we trust your judgment, We trust you as an example, right? And how you carry yourself. And if you're tapped by your friends, let's say, to be the captain of a team, that's also a very big deal. This is that plus a lot. You're not just in charge of the younger ones or your peers. You're in charge of your parents and your grandparents and their friends, and you're in charge of soloist Jessica and me. You're in charge today. You're the man, okay? Which is, what are you actually doing? You're leading us in prayer, okay? You're the center of the prayer. You're going to be chanting Torah, which is very hard, and you've been working on it for a very long time. You're going to be running us through your Haftorah and giving a drash, a sermonette, an interpretation of Torah, your speech, okay? All that is a very big deal, and because of this, we are able to tap into your energy and your potential. You'll take this momentum from today and the success from today and carry it forward to whatever the next thing is that you do, and the next thing, and the next thing, and the next thing. As one of the benchmarks of you becoming a young man before our eyes in the next 90 minutes, we have the presentation of the Tallis. So I'm going to ask your parents, Kelly and Craig, to come on up for the presentation of the Tallis, which you'll find on page 4. Okay. And you're going to come nice and close to your parents.
Hi, everyone. Daniel, as you know, I selected this talit for you on my Jewish Women's Connection trip to Israel 5 years ago, almost to the day. At the time, 5 years ago seemed like an eternity, and it is hard to believe the day has finally arrived. Although there were so many beautiful ones from which to choose, when I thought of giving it to you for your bar mitzvah, this one really spoke to me, not only because I know you love the color blue, but more importantly because of the beautiful embroidered images of Jerusalem. I hope you wear this talit in good health and can pass it on one day to your son and or grandson.
Beautiful. Okay. So we're going to read this piece now.
As this talit is draped around your shoulders,
May the voices of together.
Good. May the voices of the generations speak to you. May you know that there's a people, a rich heritage to which you belong, a sacred place from which you are connected to all who dwell on earth.
As you are embraced in the folds of this talit, so too are you wrapped in the loving embrace of your family, community, and this holy congregation. May the simplest of garments always be for you a symbol of God's abiding and sheltering presence.
As you recite the blessing and wrap yourself in this talit, we proudly watch and celebrate with you as you accept your place in the chain of our tradition.
Okay, so now, Dan, you're going to read the Tallis blessing.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotah v'tzivanu lehitatef b'tzitzit.
Amen. And your parents are going to drape the Tallis over your shoulders, and they're going to line it up to make sure it's all straight. Beautiful. Now get between mom and dad for a moment, okay? Friends, we know that families and communities come together for all sorts of reasons. Sometimes those reasons are sad. This one, super happy, joyous. And so what we Jews do when we know we're in the midst of a particular type of time, we pray Shehechianu. Thank you, God, for this moment in time that we're here, that we're together. May we have this type of holiness again and again and again. Please join us for Shehechianu.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehechianu v'kimanu v'higianu lazman hazeh.
Hug, hug, kiss, kiss. Okay. And parents can come on down. Daniel, will you lead us on page 5?
God, be with me on this occasion as I become bar mitzvah. Help me make meaningful the covenant you now establish with me. Sustain me with a sense of holiness, inspire in me a desire to be special. I do not ask that you make my life easy, resolve my problems, or map out the directions of my life. I ask only that you strengthen within me the desire to mold and shape my life in accordance with your will. In this hour of my bar mitzvah, I invoke your blessings upon my parents and friends, and all who have loved and cared for me, all who have brought me to this time of gladness. Give them joy and fulfillment in my growth and achievement. You who turn the hearts of children to their parents and the hearts of parents to their children.
Beautiful. Friends, on page 6, we're going to turn. Daniel's going to lead us in this prayer responsively. So he'll read the bold part. We'll pray back the italicized part together.
May the door of the synagogue be wide enough to receive all who hunger for love, all who are lonely for fellowship.
Together, may it welcome all who have cares to unburden, thanks to express, hopes to nurture.
May the door of the synagogue be narrow enough to shut out pettiness and pride.
May its threshold be no stumbling block to young or straying feet.
May it be too high to admit indifference, selfishness, and harshness.
May this synagogue be for all who enter the doorway to a richer and more meaningful life. I'd like to invite up Sister Abigail to help lead us in the Simba Chol Yom. So Daniel, you're going to lead the congregation. Abigail, you're going to lead us in the congregational piece, which is every other line. So if you turn to page 8 in the Simba Chol Yom, you'll see that each one of these daily miracle prayers is meant, according to the rabbis, to be taken both literally and figuratively. So for instance, the one that says, "Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, Master of the universe, who opens the eyes of the blind." Well, we can look at this in two different ways. One is, thank God for the medical technology that there is, that people can actually see better, or people who are blind can actually sometimes be led to see, but also metaphorically, right? That sometimes it takes a miracle to have the people around us, or maybe even ourselves, see when we are otherwise blind to realities around us, right? Everybody understand that? So as we're going through these Nasim B'chol Yom prayers, what I'm going to ask is, one, that we respond with Abigail, okay, either with the words of the Siddur or an Amen at the end of each one. And the second is, at the end, I'm going to come back and ask you which one of these has your name on it this morning. Which one of these is speaking to you this morning, and I might even ask you to share. Okay, so everyone pay attention. All right, so on page 8, whenever you are ready, Daniel.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan l'sefivina levhin v'nyamu v'nlaila.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam pokei al-chivri.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam matir asurim.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam zokef kefufim.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam rokacha aretz al hamayim.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hametzim etzadei gaver.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam malbish arumim.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hanoten le'ayef koach.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamavir sheina meinai utnuma me'afapai.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shasani b'tzelem Elohim.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shiasani ben horin.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shasani Yisrael.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam ozer Yisrael b'gufara.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam oter Yisrael v'tifara.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tivanu lasok b'divrei Torah.
Amen. Okay, so take a moment, look back at what we just prayed together, and find which one of those individual prayers most speaks to you this morning, as if I might call on you to share. So go ahead, take a look. Davis kids, take a look. ask for volunteers to share. So do we tell us your name? Everybody say your name and then which one.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Beth Friedman, and what spoke to me the most this morning was who made me in the image of God?
Why? Why
Because
does that speak to you?
this encompasses all of the other opportunities to do good in the world. Because if we emulate God, then we are able to meet every commandment and do everything that's expected of us on this earth.
Beautiful, beautiful. I mean, and that expectation is more an aspiration, like we can aspire to be the best that we can. Way to start us off strong, Beth. Okay, others. Someone to share. Okay, I'm passing this to Julie. Don't worry, I'm not going to call on you. Pass to Julie, please.
Okay, it's hard to follow Beth Friedman
Yeah,
on that.
tell us who you are. Tell us who you
I'm
are.
Julie Mokotov. I'm a longtime friend of the Richmonds and a member of the congregation. What speaks to me is who lifts up the fallen, because I was thinking Veterans Day weekend and all the men and women who've sacrificed themselves for us to be free in a democracy, and the injuries they sustain physically and also mentally,
Yeah.
and to find a spiritual core, that spirit of God inside of us. I think it's all connected, and that's what speaks to me this
Yeah,
morning.
beautiful, Julie. Thank you. Okay, I see my friend in the back. I love it. Tell us who you are. Hang on, I'm going to hand you a microphone.
Hello, I'm Dylan Cahill. I'm in Daniel's grade, and
Okay.
something that stood out to me just this particular morning is who gives strength to the weary.
Yeah.
Since I didn't really sleep that much tonight,
Yeah.
but I'm here at services, and it kind of woke me up and gave me the energy to pray. So yeah.
I love it. And so, you didn't sleep well last night, and I hope for a good reason. But a lot of times, some of us, all right. But sometimes some of us, life can be hard, right? Life can make you weary. And so this idea that we can tap into something higher or greater to help lift us up. We don't have to pull ourselves up by the bootstraps. Way to go. Others. What's speaking to you this morning? Maybe some cousins from Sandy Springs would like to share. Which one's speaking? Tell us who you are and tell us which one is speaking this morning.
My name is Doug Eisenberg. It's good to see you again.
You as well.
Not just over a beer in Sandy Springs.
That's right.
I suppose mine flows from Daniel's friend, but slightly different words. To remove sleep from the eyes, slumber from the eyelids, because that seems to be a challenge just about every day to get up. But thanks to the alarm clock, that happens.
Yeah.
And usually what's interesting is the day may not start off very well, but if you kind of fake it until you make it, it helps the day turn out a lot better. And so fortunately, this day is getting started very, very well.
Beautiful. Yeah, so two things. One, that we're able to get up, like that's something to be thankful for. And the second is the rabbis say that we ought to rise up every morning like a lion to do mitzvahs, right? That we're not supposed to just kind of, limp our way through the world. Like we have a purpose, and there's great good that we can do with our time. Very good. Anybody else have? Okay, I like it. Last one, and then we'll continue. Tell us who you are.
I'm Ryan Lips. I coached Daniel this summer. We had a great summer. My favorite is Who Has Made Me a Jew, because I'm very proud to be Jewish.
Great, beautiful. And what a great way to celebrate that than this morning with your student who you coached, right? Okay, beautiful. I think we're warmed up. So let's rise for our Baruch, please, which you will find on page 15. Okay, you can sit down.
Yai la 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 la. Yai la 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 la. Yai la 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 la. Yai la 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 la. Yai la 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 la. Yai la 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 la. Yai la 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 la. Yai la 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 la. Baruch Hu et Adonai.
Together, here we go. Baruch Adonai Hamevorach Hamevorach Leolam Vaed. Daniel, in a moment on page 16, I'll have you lead us in our Yotzer Or prayer, which thanks God for two things. One, creation in general, that any of us are here, that we're all here, but that's tough to get our head around sometimes, the idea of thanking God for creation. So the rabbis had a second piece to it, which is that we thank God that every morning we have a chance to recreate ourselves and the world around us anew by the choices we make, how we think, how we speak to people, how we approach the situations that we're faced with. That every day that we can affect who we are as individuals, we can affect the people in our home, Dayenu, like that's a lot, our expanding concentric circles of our communities of school and synagogue and sports, and even the things that we do, like a pebble into a still pond, can affect people we've never met and maybe even people who've never yet been born. So, Yotzer Or Daniel, on page 16, when you're ready.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, Yotzer or uvrei hoshech, osei shalom uvrei et hakol. Hameir la'aretz v'ladarim elecha, barachamim uvtuvo mahadesh b'chol, yom tamid maseh bereshit. Marabu masecha Adonai kulam b'chochma asita, melach ha'aretz kinyanecha. Titzbarach Adonai Eloheinu al shabach maseh yadecha v'al moreh or shiasita yufaruach. Selah. Or hadash al tzion ta'ir v'nizkeh kulanu mecharei lo'ro. Baruch atah Adonai Yotzer hamarut.
Beautiful. Well done. Well done. So in a moment, I'm going to have you lead us in Ahava Rabbah, which is on page 18. And Daniel, Ahava Rabbah talks about God's great love for us. And there's sort of two ways of looking at this. One is of all the people who love you, and there's a long list of people who love you, many of whom are here. So if you look out, right, you're going to see people who are here because they love you and support you. In that long list, whether first, middle, or last, God's part of that list. The other way of looking at it, because it talks about God's abundant love for we, the Jewish people, is that God has lots of love to go around, not just to the Jewish people, but every people. So we speak about a particular relationship, not every relationship. So Craig and Kelly, for instance, you've got two children. They are both amazing kids. They're very different from each other, right? And the eternal love that you have for one does not preclude the eternal love that you have for another. You've got plenty to go around. So too with God and us with Ahava Rabbah, page 18.
Ahava rabbah avtanu Adonai Eloheinu, hemla gadolah v'tzara hamalta aleinu, ba'avor avotenu v'imotenu, shabbatu v'cha v'atzlamdem hukei hayim ken techonenu utzlamdenu, hamrachem rachem aleinu v'ten belibenu, l'chavin ulhaskil lishma lilmod ulalmed lishmor v'lasot ulkayem et kol divrei talmud tortecha ba'ahava. Baruch atah Adonai Haboher ba'amo Yisrael ba'ahava.
Beautiful. So we're getting ready for our Shema, which you'll find on page 21. Daniel, just quick question for you. How many times do you think you've said the Shema in your life? More than 10?
Yeah,
More than 100?
probably.
Definitely. Definitely. So this is traditionally the first prayer that a Jewish person, a Jewish kid learns. Traditionally, it's the last prayer that a Jew says before she or he dies. And there's lots of times where we say the Shema in between, like a weave coming back and forth and back and forth. So this Shema, which you're about to lead, we're all going to do it together, okay, will be one of the ones that you really remember, not just here and not just here, but here. When we're ready, we'll do Shema on page 21.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. 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 Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Vaed.
seated. Daniel, in a moment, you're going to lead us in Via Hafta on page 22. Via Hafta is part of the Shema, and inside the mezuzah that we have on our doorways is the Shema and the Via Hafta. This is a reminder to ourselves, and this is described in this prayer that you're going to lead, that the home, the Jewish home, is our most sacred space. And as we walk into a sacred space, whether it be a Jewish home or maybe a synagogue, we're supposed to see this mezuzah as a reminder, and some people will do one of these, touch and kiss, as a reminder that we're entering into a place where we're supposed to bring our best selves, not the leftovers of our day, because the people who are usually in these spaces are the most important people to us. So may they get the very best of who we are and not the worst, not the spit sip of our day or of our week. So Via Hafta on page 22, this prayer that reminds us that we have reminders that we can be our most beautiful aspirational self. When you're ready.
Ve'havta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levacha uv'chol nefshecha uv'chol me'odecha ve'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anohi mitzavecha hayom al levavnecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta ba'am v'shivtecha b'veitecha Ulech lecha b'derech, u'shoftecha uv'kumelecha, u'shartam leot al yadecha, v'hayu l'tatafo b'neinecha, u'shartam amizo beitecha, u'visharecha, leman tizkeru, v'asitem et kol mitzvotai, v'tem kedoshim le'elohem, ani Adonai Elohim, Asher hotzieti etem me'eretz Mitzrayim, lehot lehem Elohim, ani Adonai Elohim,
Adonai Lechem Emet. To lead us in our Geula prayer on page 23, I'm going to ask Jennifer and Brian Richmond to meet us right over there at the choir mic and lead us in our prayer on page 23. We are all going to be the italicized responsive piece. Together, you were in the courage with which we overcame 40 years of desert wandering. You were in the love that creates, protects, forgives.
Standing at the sea, we felt your goodness and your love, and we sang a new song to you, and still today we sing that song.
We praise you, Adonai, Redeemer of Israel. Michamocha, page 24. Hands together. Adonai, Michamocha Nedar B'Kodesh, Norati Lo Seifele, Norati Lo Seifele. We rise for our Amidah, page 26. Daniel, this prayer, of course, is our central prayer where we pray for the thoughts that are in our head to turn into both words and action. And in this prayer, we remind ourselves that we have yichus with the Most High, that we have a connection that goes generations back. This is not a cold call. We've been in this conversation before we were born. On page 26, we begin.
Adonai sifatai tivtachu fi yagita hilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, v'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, v'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, v'Konei HaKol, v'Zocher Chasdei Avot v'Imahot, u'Mevi Gula Livnei B'neihem, Leman Shemo B'Ahava, Melech Ozer u'Moshiach Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham v'Ezrat Sarah, Atah Gibor Leolam Adonai, Mechayeh HaKol atah Rab L'Hoshia, Mashiv HaRuach u'Marid HaGashem, Mechalkel Chaim b'Chesed, Mechayeh HaKol b'Rachamim Rabim, Somech Noflim v'Rofei Cholim, Umatir Asurim, Umekayem Emunato, Lishenei Afar, Michamocha Bal Gevurot, Umidomela, Melech Meimid, Umechayeh, Umatzmiach Yeshua, V'ne'eman atah lechayot hakol, Baruch atah Adonai, Mechayeh hakol.
And to lead us on page 28, cousins Leslie and Doug Eisenberg on page 28. Together, there is holiness when we strive to be true to the best we know. There's holiness when we strive for harmony in all of our relationships. There's holiness when people seek justice and struggle for righteousness. There's holiness when we forget what divides us and remember what unites us. Page 29, Kedusha.
Nekadesh et shimcha ba'olam, keshem shemakdishim oto b'shmei marov, kakatu al yad neviyacha, v'kara ze'el zev hamar.
Kadosh, 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 Adonai Tzevaot, Melech kol haaretz, Kivodo.
Adir, Adirenu, Adonai, Adonenu, Ma'adir, Shimcha bechol haaretz.
Baruch Kivod Adonai, Mimkomo.
Echad hu Eloheinu, hu Avinu, hu Malkeinu, hu Moshienu, v'hu Yashvienu, v'rachamav le'nei kol chai. Ani Adonai Elohechem,
Yimloch Adonai leolam, Elohai Yiksion, Ledor Vador, Hallelujah.
Ledor dorvador,
Le dorvador.
le dorvador,
Le dorvador, le dorvador, nagi galacha.
le dorvador,
Le dorvador,
le dorvador,
le dorvador.
le dorvador nagid galacha. Huna netzach nitzachim, kerushak tachanaktish, kerushak tachanaktish. V'shivacha Eloheinu mipinu lo yamush, leolam leolam va'ed.
Here comes your part.
Le dorvador,
Le dorvador,
le dorvador,
le dorvador, le dorvador, nagi galacha.
le dorvador,
Le dorvador,
le dorvador,
le dorvador.
le dorvador nagid galecha. Ki melech gadol gadol v'kadosh 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 ata. Ki melech gadol gadol v'kadosh 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 ata. Baruch atah Adonai
Baruch Shemo.
Ha'el HaKadosh.
Amen. Okay, we can be seated. I'm going to ask cousins Laura Lee and Steve Bernstein to come on up on page 31 and lead us in this prayer responsively. Together, Shabbat is the most cherished creation of the Jewish spirit. It mirrors the essence of the Jewish soul. Shabbat is the symbol of liberation and triumph, of the holy over the profane, of spirit over matter. Shabbat nurtures family life in love and harmony. A home at peace welcomes Shabbat with joy. Shabbat is our hope, the calm haven where all the weary find rest. With the coming of Shabbat, redemption and peace enter the world. Yismechu, page 31.
Yismechu v'malechutecha, shomrei, shomrei, shomrei Shabbat v'korei oneg Shabbat. Yismechu v'malechutecha, shomrei, shomrei, shomrei Shabbat v'korei oneg Shabbat. Makadashei, makadashei shavi Shabbat. Kulam yisbehu, v'yitengu metu b'cha Shabbat. Yismechu v'malechutecha, shomrei, shomrei, shomrei Shabbat v'korei oneg Shabbat. Uvashvi ratzira bo v'kidasho Shabbat. Chemdat yamim oto karata Shabbat. Yismechu v'malechutecha, shomrei, shomrei, shomrei Shabbat v'korei oneg Shabbat. Zecher lamasei, lamasei v'reishit Shabbat. Zecher lamasei, lamasei v'reishit Shabbat. Yismechu v'malechutecha, shomrei, shomrei, shomrei Shabbat v'korei oneg Shabbat.
I'd like to invite up Betty Levy and Marty Barrett to lead us on page 32. Inspire us to banish hatred, war, bloodshed, and bigotry. Help us to establish forever one human family, doing your will in love and peace.
Help us to find peace in ourselves and among all people. O God of peace, bless us with peace.
You have given us the power, O God, to bring peace and justice into the world. May we always love peace and pursue it, and love our fellow creatures. Fill us with kindness, wisdom, and love. Then shall we learn to live in peace. Beautiful. So Daniel, we're going to come have a seat. I'm going to invite everyone to take a moment. Yeah, you can sit down. A moment of silent prayer and reflection. And this moment, I'm asked that you be open to whatever the conversation is with the divine that you might be able to have. The rabbis say that whenever we get together to pray, we need to remember to pray for peace. Peace amongst nations, peace amongst neighbors, peace in our own heart. Sim Shalom, page 33.
Sim Shalom, Tova Uvracha. Sim Shalom, Tova Uvracha. Chen v'chesed v'rachamim. Chen v'chesed v'rachamim. Sim Shalom, Tova Uvracha. Sim Shalom, Tova Uvracha. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yisrael. Sim Shalom, Tova Uvracha. Sim Shalom, Tova Uvracha.
I'd like to invite up Craig and Kelly Richmond to address your son. Come on up, Daniel. So, Craig and Kelly, the parents' blessing, as we call it, is a mashup. It's really an amalgamation of words from the Talmud. And these great sages were, for the most part, also parents. And so now these words that these great sages had come down through the generations to you and through you to your son on this auspicious day.
May you live to see your
Nice and
will
close.
fulfilled. May your destiny be for worlds still to come. And may you trust in generations past and yet to be. May your heart be filled with intuition and your words be filled with insight. May songs of praise ever be upon your tongue and your vision be on a straight path before you. May your eyes shine with the light of holy words and your face reflect the brightness of the heavens. May your lips ever speak wisdom and your fulfillment be in righteousness. A Jewish home opens its heart and its link to the generations is proclaimed. Today, nearly grown, you are called to read from the Torah and are welcomed into the congregation. May this moment be blessed.
All right, hug, hug, kiss, kiss. This is a good one. All right, parents, stay up here with us. I'm going to invite up Avery Bernstein and Jared Eisenberg to open the Ark. I'm going to invite up Lisa Bloom and Jennifer Kushner to undress the Torah. I'm going to invite up grandparents Carol Holtzman, Bonnie and Gary Richmond for the Generation Pass. Everyone, please rise for our Torah service, which you're going to find on page 37.
mitzion teitzei Torah. Ki mitzion teitzei Torah. Udevar Adonai mirushalayim. Baruch Shenatan Torah, Torah. Baruch Shenatan Torah, Torah. Le'amo Yisrael b'kedushato.
Hello, Daniel. Okay, Daniel, you are doing a great job of leading us. And I want you to take a moment, and I want you to look out here at all these people who are here because they love and support you. You can give him a little wave as his eyes meet yours, as his head sort of comes around. Go ahead, give him a little wave. Yeah. This is your crew. These are your people. So, Daniel, you and the Torah are here for a very particular reason. And if you think about it, and we can look at the stage that's been set here, this is quite a stage, right? Here you are, up on the bema in the center. You have families surrounding you. You have community surrounding you. You have traditions surrounding you, going back 6,000 years. You have the symbolism of our people all around you. The Torahs. You have our two flags for our two homelands on either side. Okay, America and Israel. You've got above us the Ner Tamid, the eternal light of the Jewish people. You are, the whole stage has been set as if for you in this moment. You're here and the Torah is here because of the decisions that have come from the generations before you, right? If they had chosen different, things might have been drastically different. So if you turn around, I want you to take a look at your parents. And behind your parents, you're going to see your grandparents. And behind Grandpa, you're going to see your missing grandpa, right? Behind them, you can see your great-grandparents and your great-great-great and great-great-great. We Jews believe that the Jewish generations are here and they're looping themselves again and again and again in this sanctuary. We believe that they're here and that they're smiling because of what you're doing, what we're doing, and who you have become. This is such a big deal. It's so joyous. And so now symbolically, we pass this Torah down through the generations. Just give it a little hug. Okay, to Mom. And pass Torah to Dad. Got it, Craig? I want you to face Dad just so he doesn't hurt his back. Okay, right onto his right shoulder. Okay. Daniel, got it? Okay, hand on his shoulder. Here we go.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shema.
Return to face the ark.
Gadol Adonai Tiyu Maroma, Shemo Yachdav. Lecha Adonai hagedula v'hagevura v'hatiferet v'hanetzach v'hahod ki ho b'shemayim uvaretz ki ho b'shemayim uvaretz lecha Adonai hamamlacha v'amid na'aseh lechol erosh. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu v'yishachavu lehar kodsho. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu v'yishachavu lehar kodsho. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu romemu. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu romemu. Yai lai 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 lai. Yai lai 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 lai. Yai lai 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 lai. lehar kadsho, romemu Adonai Eloheinu v'yishtachavu, lehar kadsho, ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu romemu, ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu romemu.
Please be seated. So in a moment, Daniel's going to be chanting Torah. And if you reach under your seat, you're going to find two blue books. One of them says on it, the Torah. That's the one you should take out if you want to follow along. Daniel's going to be chanting from Vayera and Genesis. That's Genesis 18, 1 through 12. So if you turn in that book that says the Torah, edited by Rabbi Gunther Plaut, Zikaron Libracha, you'll turn to page 122 to find the verses that Daniel's going to be chanting. Now, straw poll here for a second. Raise your hand if this is your first bar or bat mitzvah ever. Great. You picked a good one to come to. Good. You picked a good one to come to. Raise your hand if you've been to 10 or fewer bar or bat mitzvahs. Okay, good. We still call you rookies, but you're on your way. All right. How about 100 or fewer? Raise your hand. 100 or fewer. Okay, and that's most of us here. Raise your hand if you've been to more than 100 bar or bat mitzvahs. Okay. So here's what I want you to remember. Whether this is your first one or your 101st one, what Daniel is doing, chanting in the original, without cantillation marks, without musical notes, without vowels, from the scroll, in the language he wasn't born speaking, is hard. It's really hard. And he's been preparing for this for months and we could even say years. Okay? Daniel, by chanting from the Torah, you add your voice to the weave of our tradition, okay? This chain of tradition. And after this, you're going to be interpreting the Torah for us. So this is such a big deal, and we are so, so pleased. So we are going to be calling up grandparents first. Ya'amdu, grandparents Bonnie and Gary Richmond and Carol Holtzman. Ya'amdu, Sivya bat Shmiel Nusen be Pesel, Bluma Reza bat Ega Peshel v'Shmuel, ve'Yitzchak ben Beryl, la'alot leTorah. Okay, you guys are going to come right over here, and I want you to take your seat, please. Take your seat. I want you to touch and kiss right over there. Okay, and when you guys are ready, here's your sheet. You're going to go Baruch on 3. 1, 2, 3. Baruch Adonai Hamavarach Leolam Vaed.
Baruch Adonai Hamavarach Leolam Vaed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Olam Asher Bachar Banu Mikol Amin V'notan Lanu Et Torato.
Amen. And Grandma, put your hand right here. Okay.
Vayera elav Adonai be'elonei mamrei v'hu yoshev petacha ohel kahom hayom v'yisai nav vayar v'hinei shalosha anashim netzavim elav Vayarot sligratam mi petacha ohel vayishtahu arza vayomar Adonai imna metati hen ve'enecha anata avor me'al avdeha.
Beautiful. Hold your yod right there. Grandpa, will you touch and kiss with your tallis right there? That's good enough. Perfect. Okay, and the blessing after.
Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Olam Asher Natan Lanu Torah Emes B'chayei Olam Atah B'Tolkeinu Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen. Okay, give him a little hug and a kiss. And you guys are going to slide right over to the other side of Joanne. So you'll stay up here right on the other side. For our second aliyah, proud big sister, Abigail Richmond. Ta'amod, Shoshana Tova, Bat Chaim Avraham Ve'Barocha Yochaved, La'alot LeTorah. Okay, you're going to take your seat. And you're going to touch and kiss right there. And when you're ready, Baruch Hu.
Baruch Hu et Adonai Hamvorach.
Baruch Adonai Hamavarach Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam. Asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen.
Amen. Yukaf na'am et mayim v'rahatzu raglehem v'yishanu tahata etz v'kafat lehem v'sadu livhem ahar tavoru kil ken avartem alavdehem v'yomru ken taseh kasher dibarta v'maher Avraham ha'ohela el Sarah v'yomer mahari shalosh se'im kemasolet Lu Shivasi Ugot.
Beautiful. Okay, mark your spot, right? Yeah, right there. Okay, you're good.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torat emet v'chayei olam nata betochenu Baruch atah Adonai noten HaTorah.
Amen. All right, and Abigail, you're going to hang out over here with us. All right. See that look they gave each other before that hug? It was funny. Okay. For our third aliyah, proud parents, Kelly and Craig Richmond. Ya'amdu Chaim Avraham ben Yitzchak ve'Bluma Reza ve'Barucha Yochebed bat Yaakov v'Sarves Sivia la'alot LeTorah. So you're going to take your seat, and you're going to touch and kiss right over there. And when you're ready, Baruch Hu.
Baruch Hu Adonai Hamvarach.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam. Asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten HaTorah.
Amen.
Amen. Ve'el habakar rat Avraham ve'ikach ben bakar raf vatov v'yitain el hana'ar v'maher lasot otov ve'ikachem ve'halav uvein habakar asher asa v'yitain livnehem v'hu omed alehem tahata etz v'yohelu v'yomru elav ayes araish techa v'yomer hine va'ohel.
Beautiful, beautiful. Okay, seat, touch and kiss. Okay. All right, guys, when you're ready.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torat emet v'chayei olam natan betochenu Baruch atah Adonai noten HaTorah.
Amen. Give him a little squeeze. And Abigail, you should stay up here with us. Stay with us, okay? Okay, Daniel, I'm going to have you come have a seat. Kelly and Craig are going to come right over to the other side. And don't get comfortable, Daniel. I'm having you sit down just so I can ask you to stand up again, okay? So, in a moment, you're going to have your maftir, your final reading of your Torah portion. And in this particular one, you're going to be called up to say the blessings before and after. This is called an aliyah LaTorah. You're going to literally, physically rise, ascend to the bima. And we believe that it's not just a physical ascent, but you're coming in this moment to a higher spiritual plane. And in this moment, we acknowledge you as bar mitzvah. Okay, this is it. Ya'amod, Ya'amod, Shmuel Yosef ben Chaim Avraham beBarucha Yocheved la'alot LeTorah. So you're going to take your seat. I want you to touch and kiss that first word right there. And you're going to say the blessings. Here we go. Baruch Hu.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach Leolam Vaed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach Leolam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Asher b'harbanu mikol ha'amim. V'natan lanu et Torto. Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen.
Vayomer Shov Ashuv Eleha Ka'et Haya V'hine Vein L'Sara Ishteha V'Sara Shomat Petacha Ohel V'hu Avraham V'Avraham V'Sara Skinim Be'im Bayamim Hadal Lihot L'Sara Orach Hanashim V'Titak Sara Bekirba Lemor Ahare Beloti Haitali Ena V'Adoni Zaken.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Okay, tzitzit, touch and kiss. Okay, you're going to say the blessings after. Yep.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torat emet v'hayei olam natan b'toheinu Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Okay. With the open Torah, I'm going to ask Mom and Dad to flank Daniel and Abigail right in here as well. I'm going to ask everyone to rise, please. Daniel, we're going to give you, with the open Torah, a special Misha Berach blessing, one for your own continued spiritual development. The idea is that today serves as a spiritual cornerstone for you, one that you can push off of, Daniel, to go wherever you're going to go, and I'm very curious to where that is, and also to always find your way back to. Okay, this is a spiritual cornerstone, not just for this moment, for your life. So we'll do it in Hebrew and in English. Mishaberach Avotenu Vimotenu Avraham Yizkaf Yaakov Sarah Rivka Rachel V'Leah Huvi Yavarech Et Shmuel Yosef Ben Chaim Avraham V'Barucha Yochavan Shehagia Mitzvot La'ala Torah Hakadosh Baruch Hu Yismi Reho V'Chayeho V'Chonan Et Libo Liyot Shalem Im Adonai Elohav L'Gopa Torato La'Lecha B'Drachav Lishmor Mitzvotav V'Yimsechain V'Sechel Tov V'Nei Elohim V'Adam V'Nomar, and we say Amen. May the God who blessed our ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah, bless you, Daniel, who's come up for an aliyah upon the age of mitzvot. May the Holy One guard you and sustain you, helping you to be wholehearted in your faith, studying God's Torah, walking in God's ways, and studying God's mitzvot. May you find favor before God and all people, and we say, Amen. Beautiful. I'm going to ask Great Aunt Betty Eisenberg to come on up to dress the Torah. We continue on page 42 with the lifting and the rolling. Okay, I'm going to sneak in here. Just step back.
וזאת התורה ששם משה לפני בני ישראל, על פי אדוני ביד משה. Yalai lai 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 lai. Yai lai 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 lai. Yai lai 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 lai. Yai lai 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 lai. Yai lai 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 lai.
Beautiful job. No, great job. Thank you.
Yai lai 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 lai. Lai, 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 lai.
Please be seated. You be seated. Yep. So you're going to get out your speech. Daniel has led us beautifully in our service and the chanting of Torah. And now, Daniel, you're going to be giving us your drash, your Devar Torah, your interpretation of the words that you've chanted. You and I have studied this for a couple months now. We've looked at some of what the great sages have said about what you've chanted, And you have also taken your own experiences and what's important to you and inserted them into the words of Torah. So when you're ready, you're Devar Torah.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
In the Torah portion before Vayera, God sends out Abraham and Sarah for a long journey into the desert to make the world a better place. Tikkun Olam. Abraham still has the courage to do things for the world, even though he's just circumcised himself, and it must have been painful. At some point, Abraham and Sarah have to stop during the night, and they set up a tent that is open on every side to welcome in people if they need help. Now in the portion of Vayera. One day, Abraham, while in the tent, is having a conversation with God when he sees some travelers that are wandering the desert, and he interrupts the conversation with God to welcome them into the tent. Abraham washed the guests' feet, which shows us that Abraham was doing everything he could to make the guests feel welcome. He asked Sarah and a servant to prepare food for the guests. While Abraham and the guests are talking, one of the guests says he will come back in 1 year and Sarah will have a child. Sarah overheard this and she laughed because she thought she was too old to give birth. About a year later, she had a son and named him Isaac because Isaac means to laugh. After the visitors told her of the birth that would ultimately happen, they left Abraham and Sarah's tent to go to Sodom. At this point, God and Abraham got into an argument as Abraham didn't want God to destroy the innocent people of Sodom. This tells us that Abraham was comfortable arguing with God and that God wanted Abraham to care for others. Abraham's addressing God in this way was an example of speaking truth to power and can serve as a model of how Jews should speak truth to power. An example of doing this in modern times is speaking out against racial segregation, particularly in the 1960s. Civil rights advocates, both black and white, asked white people to stop discriminating against black people and encouraging segregation. This discrimination, of course, dates back to the time when black people were brought in from Africa to America to be white people's slaves. Slavery legally ended after the Civil War, but we know that segregation and discrimination still occur even today. One local civil rights activist who fought against segregation and discrimination was John Lewis. As many of you may know, Lewis, who just died in the summer of 2020, grew up as a poor boy in rural Alabama, but went on to be a well-known activist who spoke truth to power, along with people like Martin Luther King Jr., who was recognized as one of the Big Six in the civil rights movement. He's most famous for saying, "Speak up, speak out, get in the way." What he meant by this is that if you don't speak up when you see something wrong, then nothing will happen. Known for what he called good trouble, Lewis believed that people shouldn't be afraid to get into trouble because even if something bad might happen to you, your community might benefit from it. Lewis got arrested 40 times, but didn't care as long as he was helping his community. By speaking truth to power, even if it meant going to jail for it, Lewis was able to make a huge impact on the fight against segregation and discrimination. Racism bothers me because I don't like the way black people are treated differently because of the color of their skin. It doesn't make sense to me that people treat them in such an inhumane manner when they're just human beings at the end of the day. There are a ton of stereotypes against black people, and one that is all black people are violent and bad. I know this is not true, but I also know for a fact that there are some bad white people out there along with some black people, but most black and white people are good. This stereotype reminds me of Judaism. So many people could say that the Jews are the reason for the world's troubles, which is not true. I think that everyone should realize that we should be equal. This would make the world a better place. Becoming a bar mitzvah is very meaningful to me because I am now officially a Jewish adult. Instead of being a follower in my Jewish community, I can be a leader. For example, I can now lead prayers in a Temple Emanu-El service, meaning I can set an example for younger kids that will one day have their bar or bat mitzvah. I can even teach kids in Sunday school now that I have been bar mitzvahed. I can demonstrate my Jewish identity by going to more Temple Emanu-El services, following along better in prayers, helping kids learn Hebrew, and showing my Jewish values. For example, I feel if I participate more often, it may help me grow closer to God. Now, having studied prayers that make up a service, I can follow along better and develop a better relationship with God. When I help kids learn Hebrew, it's easier for them to have a bar mitzvah, and they can also grow closer to God. When I show all my Jewish values in public, I grow closer to God. In other words, when I show my Jewish identity, I become closer to God. The Davis Academy has also played a key role in developing my Jewish identity. At the Davis Academy, there's an emphasis on living our values both in and out of school. They are Kehillah, community, Kavod, respect, Ruach, spirit, Chokhmah, wisdom, and Tzedek, righteousness. Showing all these values makes the world a better and happier place. When we work as a community, we are stronger. When we respect people, it makes oneself feel like a better person and makes the other person you're respecting feel happier. When you show your spirit, it makes things more lively and things become happier. With wisdom, you can help people learn knowledge and you can become more understanding of others. Finally, when we show righteousness, it means we do the right thing, even if it's not easy. My family tries to live by these values in our effort to become better people. Being a Reformed Zionist means a lot to me. I was fortunate enough to have the opportunity to travel to Israel. In America, Jews are a very small percent of the population. Fortunately, we are free to pray as we choose. Even so, here in America, people may get shamed for being Jewish. On the other hand, in Israel, Jews feel very welcome because most of the population is Jewish. In the land of Israel, one can still pray as they choose without any problems. It is comforting to know that Jews who live in areas of conflict, such as Ukraine, have a place of refuge in the land of Israel. As Jews, one of our most important duties is Tikkun Olam, helping to make the world a better place. Since Tikkun Olam is so important to all of us, for my Bar Mitzvah project, I collected gently used sports equipment and then donated it to children and families in need. I love to play sports, and I couldn't imagine life without it. But some kids and families can't afford equipment to play, which makes me feel so sad. When I watched the families run up to the tables full of equipment, I felt a mix of emotions, both sad and happy. I was very sad to see how much they were in need, but at the same time, I felt elated to know that they are now able to play sports and have fun just like me. Though I may not repeat the same mitzvah project myself, I would like to teach younger students behind me that will want to have a similar project so they can also help out families in need. There are many people that got me to this day, and I need to thank them. Firstly, I want to acknowledge all my Hebrew teachers over the year. They helped me teach me the basics of Hebrew that were necessary to take the next steps and learn all the prayers required to become a bar mitzvah. Rabbi Max and Rabbi Rachel, thank you for your guidance and support along my Jewish educational journey over the last several years. I want to show my appreciation to cantorial soloist Jessica, who added so much to the service with her beautiful voice. Thank you also to Joanne Lipschitz for your valuable guidance and help preparing me for this day. I sincerely appreciate it. I want to give a sincere thank you to my tutor, Mr. Weismark, who patiently taught me all my prayers and Torah portion that I needed to know for this day. Even though you're now the big assistant principal of the Davis Academy, I appreciate that you still found time in your busy schedule to prepare me for this day, and I can't thank you enough. I would not be able to stand up here on the bema without Rabbi Spike. Even though our bar mitzvah preparations meetings were required, I genuinely enjoyed our conversations that we had over the past few months. Thank you to my Grandma Carol for all your love and support since the day that I was born. I always look forward to playing Boggle or watching The Price is Right with you, in general, just spending time with you, in Atlanta, in Florida, or wherever we might be. None of this would have been possible without your love and support. I have to thank Grandpa Jerry for all the love and support and fun times that we spent together, even if he isn't present with us today. From teaching me how to ride a bike to making me laugh and how he told me the best bedtime stories, I couldn't be up here without all the love he gave me. Mimi and Grandpa, I have loved all the fun times that we've had together, whether it's having sleepover at your house, eating Maggiano's dinner at your house, going golfing with Grandpa, or playing cards with Mimi. All of these things I've appreciated for your love and support for me, and I know that you always have my back. I couldn't be up here without you. Abigail, you're the best sister I could ever ask for, even though I might not show it sometimes. I love all the times when I get to play with you in ping pong and beat you. I love playing basketball with you and going on walks together, or even the times when we can hang out on the couch and watch a movie together. I always will look up to you as my big sister, except when I'm looking down on you when I eventually grow to be taller than you. I also love that you're able to give me great advice whenever I need it. Well, if you weren't here in my life, everything would be so boring, so I'm glad that you're here with me today. I love you so much. Dad, thanks for being my personal coach in life. You've taught me so much about baseball, and I wouldn't have the opportunity to play if you didn't play. I love the times when you can throw the ball in the yard, swim together, watch Braves and Hawks games together, and when we get the opportunity to run together. You're someone everyone wants to be and someone I look up to. I love you so much, and none of this would have been possible without you. Mom, thanks for all that you have done in my life. You did so much for this special occasion, and I can't thank you enough. Riding bikes with you is always the best, along with going to the park, making waffles and pancakes together on the weekends, and coming to most of my sports events to support me. Thank you, of course, for being my personal Uber driver to all my various sports and activities. I also love that you're always looking out for me and showing that you care for me. I love you so much. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Beautiful. So I don't think anybody has a doubt that we just heard from a young Jewish man. Those were great words, Daniel, and brave words, and aspirational words, and courageous words. Friends, we're going to continue with our Haftarah. And if you turn to page 53 in your black Siddur, you'll find the piece for Haftarah that we're going to be reading today. The blessings are on page 42 and 43, with the actual reading on page 53. Daniel, the Torah portion, you'll say the blessings, and then you're going to translate the actual Haftarah for us into English. And this is about just what you said, speaking truth to power, and the idea that someday we could be at a particular place where plowshares, swords have been turned into plowshares, and nations will know war no more. So when you're ready, please lead us. Page 42.
Yeah, I know. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bahar b'nviim tovim v'ratzah b'divreihem hana emarim b'emet. Baruch atah Adonai aboher b'torah u'Moshe abdo Yisrael amo u'v'nviei hamet v'atzedek. V'chalhu goyim rabim ve'amru lechu v'na'aleh el har Adonai ve'el beit Elohei Yaakov ve'yorenu rahav v'nel ha ba'or chotav ki mitzion tetzei Torah u'davar Adonai miYerushalayim v'shafat ben amim rabim v'chol hi'ach legoyim atzumim ad rachok v'chitatu harvotetem La'itim v'chanitotehem le'maz merot lo yisu goy el goy herev v'lo yilmedun od milchama v'yashvu ish tachat gafnu v'tachat tenoto v'ein maharid kifi Adonai tzevaot diber. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam sur kol halamim tzadik b'chol hadarot ha'el ha'ne'eman ha'omer roseh ha'medaber u'mkayem shekol devarav emet v'tzedek al ha'torah ve'al ha'avodah ve'al hanvi'im ve'al yom ha'shabbat hazeh shana tatalanu Adonai Eloheinu l'tishav v'limnucha lehavod u'tifaret. Al hakol Adonai Eloheinu anachnu modim lach umvarhim otach yitzrashim habefi kol hai tami leolam va'ed baruch atah Adonai
Baruch Shemo.
mekadesh hashabbat.
Amen. We rise, everybody, for Eitz Chaim on page 45. I'd like to invite up Noe and Samuel Richmond to open the Ark. Page 45.
Eitz Chaim hi lamachazikim ba v'tomcheha meushar derachea darchei noam v'chol nativotecha
Shalom.
Hashivenu
Adonai.
Elecha
V'nashuva.
Kadesh, Kadesh Yameinu, Kadesh Yameinu kekerem.
Please be seated. Thank you, Ark closers. Okay, Dan, you're going to stand right up here with me, and you're going to face me. So it has been said before, but it's worth repeating, of all the great things that clergy get to do here at Temple Emanu-El, including high holidays and ruckus Friday nights and weddings, really our most favorite thing is what we've been doing with you for the last many months, which is getting to know you at a deep level and learning Torah lishma, Torah for the sake of higher thought or higher thinking. When we were studying your Torah portion, you glommed on right away to this idea that speaking truth to power is something that's not easy to do, but that is so necessary to progress the world from where it is, as you said, tikkun olam, to where it needs to be. And in your Torah portion, you talk about how the power is God, right? Abraham speaking truth to power, standing up to God. That's chutzpah, right? And if he can do that, that's the example that we can stand up to tyrants and despots, okay? But also peer pressure and media and political parties and all the things that give us pressure to maybe toe a particular line, even if we know that there's a different way of doing things. Speaking truth to power is very hard, right? Think about how hard it is to stand up against the crowd, even if it's a small crowd of your friends. Very, very hard. And so when this happens, meaning when you feel like the crowd is going a particular way, you're going to remember this moment and this day in your Torah portion and 6,000 years of Jewish history, which says, yes, it's hard to do, but we have examples that it can be done, and so we ought to, B'Tselem Elohim, like God, do that type of thing. Now, Stan, I'm going to share a particular piece of our interaction, which I really delight in. So Daniel and I met for our first session, which is typical, and we have our full session, an hour or close to it, and it was late, I don't know, 6:30 or whatever it is, and your mom was waiting for you, and I had things to do, and we said our goodbyes, and as I'm opening up the door, Daniel says what I like to call a doorknob confession. He says to me, as we're saying goodbye, he looks at me and goes, Rabbi Spike, how do we know that God is real? And I laughed, and not because I was laughing at you, but I laughed because that's exactly where I want us to get to, and rarely do we get there. And you save like the best for last, and the fact that you were so comfortable voicing this question made me laugh in delight, right? That this is something that you are comfortable in. You also asked the question at a later session, okay, so the prophets heard God. Do we hear God today? Right? Is this something from the outside? And I don't know if I really gave you a particularly good answer through our sessions. I tried, right? But this isn't like a ribbon on the end of a present or the sitcom at the end of a 30-minute session. These are life questions that we ask. But one of the things that we did discuss together, which I want to reiterate today, is oftentimes in our sacred literature, God is experienced or heard from the outside, as opposed to the way that things seem to have developed over the millennia, that when we see each other openly and honestly, and this is Heschel and this is Buber, these are the Hasidic masters, when we see each other openly and honestly, not trying to get something from each other, that we actually experience God in the space between us. In other words, God isn't something that is experienced from the outside. It's something that perhaps is experienced from the inside and through one another. And I know that may not be the simple and quick answer that you're looking for, but that's the best I can do, and I think it will be helpful to take it to whatever the next level is. You're smart, you're funny, you're charismatic, you're deep. I've loved our time together, and my hope is, like your sister, you'll continue with your time here. You'll continue participating and leading and studying and growing. Judaism isn't always, perfect at giving us those pat answers, but it's so good at helping us frame the questions. And you've got what's called a Yiddish cup, right? A Jewish head, a Jewish mind, that you are focused on asking the right questions. So now I'm going to ask everyone to rise, please. Take a step towards us, Daniel. And under the Ner Tamid, the eternal light of the Jewish people, surrounded by our sacred symbols and our sacred community, we all are going to give you the priestly benediction. If you'll raise your hands, palms out towards Daniel, the way that we've been doing it since time began. May God bless you and keep you.
Ya'er Adonai panavidecha vichonecha.
May God's countenance shine upon you and be gracious to you.
Yis Adonai panavidecha v'yasem lecha shalom.
May God's face turn towards you and grant you the greatest gift of all, which you have right now. Feet on the ground, surrounded by love, surrounded by tradition, surrounded by symbolism, your whole life ahead of you. A sense of opportunity, a sense of wholeness, a sense of peace. And we say, Amen. Okay. So we can all be seated unless you are Craig and Kelly, and then come on up to share some words about your son. I can either hand you.
Daniel, Mommy and I want to let you know just how proud of you we are on your becoming a bar mitzvah today. We recognize that nearly all parents who see their children reach this milestone say something similar, and you and your 7th grade friends who essentially attend one of these mitzvahs every weekend would probably say, here's another boring speech by another boring parent. Let's get this stuff done with, eat some lunch, and go home and watch football. I can't self-righteously proclaim that I was much different when I was your age. In fact, I still recall the Falcons scoring 31 unanswered fourth-quarter points to come from behind and beat the Green Bay Packers the day after my bar mitzvah. But I digress. However, just like a Falcons victory is never guaranteed till the game is over, similarly, a non-boring speech is never guaranteed until the talking is over, but we're going to give it our best shot.
Before proceeding, I do want to say that we're so glad to have the opportunity to celebrate this milestone in person with so many of our friends and family. For Abigail's bat mitzvah, we got to see only a small contingent of our friends and family in person, and many more via Zoom, which is so 2020. But we're glad now that the ratio has flipped and so many of those closest to our family are able to join us here in person, with others unable to be here still joining us via Facebook Live. So Daniel, when your sister Abigail was born, we could not have been happier. As an only daughter and an only child myself, we could have been done, and as we say at Passover, Hagadya, it would have been enough. However, we were blessed to have both a daughter and a son, and it was you, Daniel, that completed our family.
We've watched you prepare for this day over the course of many weeks and months, and in fact, many years as you pursued your Jewish education. First, right here at the Shiv Preschool at Temple Emanu-El, then at the Epstein School, and then these last 4 years at the Davis Academy, all of which have brought you to this point today. Needless to say, the road has not always been smooth, but with the help of your family and friends, difficult times have served and can serve as an opportunity for growth and development. Your great-grandfather, Sam Eisenberg, used to tell me, we've been down the road you have to travel. We know where the bumps are. We believe one of our main roles as parents is not to remove all obstacles from your path, but to help you to overcome them when they inevitably present themselves. Sometimes you'll find you need help from others, and other times you may not need help and may surprise others with your inherent strength and fortitude.
One example of the latter, when you surprised us in a good way, occurred when you were just 5 years old, and we decided to transition you from the Epstein School, where you were like the mayor of your kindergarten class, to the Atlanta Speech School. Knowing that you were so happy where you were, but convinced that it wasn't the best place for you, we applied you to the Atlanta Speech School. Shortly after you'd all but secured your spot, but then nearly blew it by losing your composure right in front of the admissions director, we had to break the news to you that you would be leaving the school that you loved and going to a new one the following year. Daddy and I were so nervous as we figured out a way to tell you while sitting anxiously at Chick-fil-A. After nudging Daddy under the table to go ahead and break the news that was sure to be met with mournful disapproval, we told you that you would be going to an amazing new school next year. Your reply was phrased as 3 simple questions. 1, do they have grilled cheese there? 2, can I get seconds? And 3, can I go play now? Assuming it wasn't just due to ignorance as to what lay ahead for you, we were pleasantly surprised by your resilience and flexibility, and these traits will serve you well throughout your life, so do your best to maintain and nurture them.
Another more recent life lesson was taught during spring break of last year, when you will no doubt recall we rented a boat and got lost in a dense fog somewhere off the coast of South Carolina after the boat's motor died. We were comforted to find out that we were still within range of cell phone service, but after even our phone a friend boat expert who's here today, the esteemed Dr./Captain Jeff Livingston, couldn't help us out remotely, you'll recall that we had thoughts that we'd either be lost in the Atlantic Ocean and starve to death, get eaten by sharks, or die of exposure to the elements. I know you'll remember what you repeatedly told me. I'm scared, bro. I'm scared, bro. I was torn between being amused that you were calling me bro, and if I'm honest, being a bit scared myself. When the fog lifted, we could see that we weren't nearly as far from land as we feared we were, and we were soon rescued by a salty old sailor. The lesson in this is that although the seas of life are not always calm, it's important to remember that and take comfort in the fact that, though not always, things often have a way of working themselves out despite our worst fears and anxieties. Or, as the late, great Tom Petty put it, and I know you've heard me say this before, I'm so tired of being tired, as sure as night will follow day, most things I worry about never happen anyway. While recognizing the seriousness of any situation, keep the faith that things have a way of working themselves out and you will weather life's stormy seas.
Yet another time when things worked out, despite fearing otherwise, occurred earlier this year when your class was dividing up into carpools to shuttle all of you back and forth each weekend to another bar and bat mitzvah. As with the anxiety concerning your anticipated response when switching schools, and with the fear of being hopelessly lost at sea, we were concerned because rather than being with a group of all of your guy friends embarking on this exciting year of celebrations, you had to settle for being the only boy in a carpool with now 5 girls. Well, as it turned out, you and your 7th grade carpool girls look forward to the transportation and late night Waffle House indulgence almost as much as the mitzvahs each week. And you can't stand the thought of traveling to mitzvahs without the entire gang together.
Still, you've learned that life has disappointments, some big, for example, waking up after falling asleep during the second half of the Super Bowl as a 7-year-old to find out the Falcons had somehow blown a huge lead and lost, or watching the Braves' Yom Kippur massacre when they were down 10-0 in the deciding playoff game against the Cardinals in the top of the first inning. And some disappointments seemingly big at the time. You'll recall while in 3rd grade, being enticed by your school into reading at least 20 minutes a night with the promise of a special treat at the end of the year, only to ultimately realize, in your words, that, and I quote, I read 3,000 minutes just to get 1 donut. Of course, the reward for all that reading was greater than the donut. It's in no small part the success you've had in school and will continue to have in going from learning to read to reading to learn. The lesson here, just because the reward for all of your hard work may not be evident at the time, it does not mean that it won't be coming to you eventually.
You've seen this not only in your schoolwork, Daniel, but also in athletics. A few baseball seasons ago, you started the season 0 for 8 with 8 strikeouts. I wondered myself if it was time to hang it up and try another sport. Rather than quitting with others who are here today, saying that maybe this just wasn't the sport for you, you persevered, decided to get extra coaching, every day waiting for Daddy to get home from work to throw the ball with you. You worked harder on your hitting and ended up making solid contributions to a team that went on to a championship. Your determination, along with the support of all your coaches, many of whom are here today, to share in this milestone have been instrumental in your continued positive trajectory in baseball. We thank all of you. Similarly, you've worked on your basketball skills and just made one of the Davis basketball teams, and you've worked on your running, helping to bring a Metro Atlanta Athletic Conference championship to the Davis Academy cross-country team just last month. You've played Alta tennis for the past 4 years and have been a valuable member of that team as well.
Studying or training when everyone else is out having fun isn't easy. In your Torah portion that you just read so beautifully, God asked Abraham to sacrifice his only son, Isaac. Fortunately, as the story goes, Abraham did not have to follow through with this sacrifice, but he was rewarded for his willingness to make the sacrifice in the first place. While we selfishly hope that you're never called on to sacrifice any of your first-degree relatives, we recognize and hope you will also recognize that as I recall seeing on the library wall where I frequently studied in college the words of Moses Lewis Annenberg, "Sacrifice is necessary for achievement." Stated somewhat more dramatically in the words of Muhammad Ali, "Suffer now and live the rest of your life as a champion." No parent wants to see their child suffer, but we do want you to recognize that making your dreams come true is hard work, but the reward will almost certainly be worth it, unless it's just one donut. Not only in school and in the realm of sports, but you've also worked extremely hard with Rabbi Spike and with the ever-patient Ilan Weissmark, studying your Torah portion and the numerous prayers in order to reach this day and become a bar mitzvah. You've sacrificed and you've achieved, and we cannot be prouder of you. Now, as you stand at the interface of childhood and adulthood, you are qualified to recite the words of an amusing yet rather poignant haiku. Today I'm a man. Tomorrow I will return to the 7th grade.
Daniel, we love you
so much.
We're so proud of you and look forward to sharing many more moments as you grow from a boy into a young man and beyond.
Give him a hug. Beautiful. Beautiful. Okay, Abigail, come on up. You'll help open the ark. Friends, we rise for Elenu on page 46.
Aleinu l'shabeach ladon hakol, lated gedula liotzer breshit, shelo asanu kikuye haratzot, velo samanu kamishpachot hanama, shelo sam chelkenu kachem, vegor aleinu kechol hamonam, vanachnu korim, Umistachavim umodim lifnei melech malchei hamlachim hakadosh baruch hu v'ne'emar v'haya Adonai lemelech kol haaretz bayom hahu bayom hahu yeh Adonai Ushema, Ushema, Ushema Echad. And we'll close the ark. Friends, be seated, please. Family, come on up to the bema with us. So, Daniel, we had spoken about how we're in our final lap here with Mourner's Kaddish. And we had spoken how the Jewish generations past are here and believe that they're smiling because of who we have become, and today led by you. Your family on this joyous day recalls certain names from your families past, which we say not to bring us down, but to lift us up. Their names actually inspire us, okay, and contribute to the sacredness of this time. Specifically, remember Jerry Holtzman, Richard Eisenberg, Pearl and Nat Barrett, Lena and Joseph Holtzman, Agnes and Sam Eisenberg, and Nettie and Ted Oser. If you are, both in the sanctuary and for the folks who are at home, if you're in the first 30 days of mourning a loved one's passing, we ask you to rise now and be recognized. Please remain standing. If you're in the first year of mourning a loved one's passing, we ask you to rise now and be recognized. Please remain standing. If you are commemorating the yard site, the death anniversary of a loved one's passing this Shabbat, please rise now so we can recognize you. And if it is your custom to rise either in solidarity or for the 6 million who have no one to say Kaddish for them, please do so now. Mourner's Kaddish can be found on page 48. Yitgada v'yitgada shmei rabbah, v'yalma divra chirotei, v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon v'yumechon, v'chayedecho beit Yisrael, v'galav yizman kari v'imru, amen. Yehei shmei rabbah mevarach le'olam ulomei almaya, Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitraman v'yitnaseh,
Vita dar, vita la shmedu kutsha, richu, la ela min kol berchata v'shirata, tush berchata v'nechamata, dami rambi alma vimru, amen. Yehe shlama rabba min shamaya, v'chaim alenu v'al kol Yisrael vimru, amen. O say shalom bimru mav, hu ya'aseh shalom, alenu v'al kol Yisrael vimru, amen.
Oh, say shalom bimroma, huya say shalom,
Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'yimeru, amen. Oh, say shalom bimroma, huya say shalom, Aleinu. Family, come on down here with me. We are going to sanctify the day with Kiddush. Daniel, you get to hold the fancy cup. Okay. Take one if you will, Kelly. Okay. Take one if you will. Can I ask you to pass these out to the folks in the front? Great, super. So we raise our glasses. And in doing so, sanctify the day, sanctify the moment, sanctify this family, sanctify the community.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen.
Amen. L'chaim lebracha, to life with blessings. Okay. And Daniel and Abigail, if you'll each hold one side of our challah. And we bless our bread together, and in doing so, this sacred community and all the good that comes with it.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, kamotzi lechem min haaretz.
Amen.
I got ahead of myself.
Simit tova, mazel tova, mazel tova, simit tova, mazel tova, mazel tova, simit tova, mazel tova, simit tova. Hey lanu, hey lanu, uvechol Yisrael. Hey lanu, uvechol Yisrael. Yehei lanu, uvechol Yisrael. Yehei lanu, uvechol Yisrael. Mazel tov, everybody. Shabbat shalom.